Hello and welcome to World Talks on TVP World with me, Ashim Kumar. Tonight we examine ECFR's Home Alone survey showing European trust in US security guarantees at historic lows, while Europeans back self-reliance, Ukraine and energy sovereignty without abandoning NATO or hopes of a post-Trump reset. With Paweł Zerka, he's Senior Policy Fellow at the European Council on Foreign Relations, we ask what leaders should do next. Welcome to TVP World and thank you very much for taking the time, Paweł.
Good afternoon. Thanks for the invitation.
So you wrote an analysis, you co-authored an analysis of the ECFR's report. What were your main findings?
So listen, at the ECFR we conduct public opinion polling regularly. We've been doing this for the past 7 years, and several times a year we ask European public and on some occasions also the global public what they think about different foreign policy issues. And the latest round of polling was striking to us. So we conducted the poll in May this year, in early days of May. So it's a very fresh study. And it was super striking to us to see how little trust in the US there is among the European public. So when you ask people whether they believe that in the case of an attack on their country, the US would come to the rescue, in every European country, and we asked this in 15 countries across Europe, the prevailing view is that no, people don't have that confidence. At the same time, when you ask them if they believe that at least some European countries would come to their country's help, they say that they do have that confidence. I think that there are two sides of the same coin. So you can talk about the diminishing trust towards America, which is accompanied with a growing reliance on European partners.
Right. Well, I mean, it's not entirely surprising that trust in America is diminishing. I understand that the level of, or the percentage of Europeans that actually trust Donald Trump is about 11%. What is it that Europeans actually want their governments to do to replace that trust?
So the 11% is the share of the Europeans who consider America as their ally. And of course, it's not surprising to see the diminishing trust towards America. But from one poll to another, we see that that trust in America is diminishing and it's hitting new lows. So one can ask himself, herself, how low can this really go? Currently, it's not only more and more people, less and less people seeing America as an ally, but also rising numbers of those who think of America as an adversary. In particular, in some countries such as Spain or Switzerland, where America has found itself in a strong tension with the governments of those countries. And given that context of unreliable America, while there is still war behind our eastern borders and the world in general is quite unstable, it's also unsurprising that Europeans are looking increasingly into working together on security and defense issues. But it's quite encouraging to see that despite the looming energy or economic crisis, people still think that, and actually rising numbers of people across Europe think that it's necessary to spend on defense. They also say that they would like their governments to consider taking on a common debt to pay for those defense spendings. They have positive reactions to the ideas of an European or a national nuclear deterrent that would replace the American nuclear deterrent. And finally, they would also want their countries to spend more on European rather than American defense arms and equipment.
Okay, yeah, so just to clarify, I think I misspoke when I said that 11% don't trust America. Actually, 11% do, which is a minuscule number. Now, if the population of Europe wants Europe to be self-reliant on in terms of defence, is there a reason for European countries to be in NATO?
For Europeans to remain in NATO, you mean?
Yes.
So our biggest challenge when working with data sets, so whenever you do a public opinion poll, your main job is to give a proper name to what you are seeing in the results. And here we were struggling whether we can really say that, for example, Europeans are feeling that's a moment for a transatlantic divorce. And looking closely at the data, we realized that actually what Europeans are showing is that they realize that this is a break in transatlantic relations, but they are not calling nor expecting a breakup. So, for example, when you ask them whether it would be a good idea to replace NATO with a defense organization that would include only European countries, then such an idea doesn't attract a lot of popularity, nor does it attract any rejection. Actually, most people simply have no opinion on it or think that it's neither good nor bad, which demonstrates perhaps that this topic simply is not the subject of the public debate yet. And once it started to be debated, this is when the public opinions will start being formed. But for the moment, what is important is that it's neither rejected nor very popular among the European public. And also, when you ask people across Europe, then in every country, the prevailing view is that once Donald Trump leaves his office, then transatlantic relations will most probably improve and get back to normal. That's why we also gave to our study the title, which is inspired by a famous Christmas movie, Home Alone, because we feel that Europeans are in a similar situation when they feel they are left alone at home and they need to cope with the dangers on their own, but ultimately they expect their family to come back sooner rather than later.
Right, so people are holding out hope that the United States will still be the backstop, perhaps after a change of government. So they want to stay in NATO because, of course, with the United States being the backbone of NATO, it's it's unlikely that without that confidence of their support, that there is any advantage of remaining there. Paweł Zerka, thank you very much indeed for laying out your analysis, and we wish you a good night. And that brings us to the end of this episode of World Talks. Don't go away, lots more coming up. Thank you.